Okay, great. Good evening, everybody. We're about to start. I want to welcome you all to the meeting of April 19th, 2023. If we could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So Chairman Caluro is out of town on business today. So I get to fulfill my role as vice chair. So Madam Clerk, are we ready?
Yes. Madam Vice,
Pardon me?
Laurie, can you just, Laurie,
For just me or for everybody? Okay.
Hey Steve, how you doing?
better? Better? Okay.
Okay.
Madam Vice Chairwoman and members of the council, the first item on the agenda is the consent agenda.
Motion to approve the consent agenda?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The next item on the agenda is the submission of minutes. We have the town council meeting minutes from March 29th and the executive session minutes also from March 29th.
Okay, motion to approve.
Motion to approve?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
The next item on the agenda is C1. This is ordinance 2023-6. This is chapter 11 to fees and charges. And this is for the comprehensive fee schedule to amend the beach fee, second reading.
Make a motion that we approve it.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you.
The next
Okay.
item on the agenda is D1. This is Rosa Piva for St. Elizabeth's Church, the United Brotherhood Committee. And this is a request for a one-day dancing and entertainment license on May 27th from 5:30 to 11 p.m.
Madam Chair, with all the positive recommendations, I move that we approve it.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you.
The next item on the agenda is D2. We have Rosa Piva, also from St. Elizabeth's Church, United Brotherhood Committee. And this is a request for a one-day dancing and entertainment license on June 2nd from 6 to 11, June 3rd from 6 to 11, and June 4th from 6 to 10.
With, Madam Chair, with the positive recommendations from the chief, both chiefs, I move that we approve it.
Any
Se-
second?
I'll second. I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Just had a question, Madam Chair, on the livestock. I noticed that they're going to have livestock this year.
They've
Interesting.
always had it.
They've always had it?
Yeah,
Okay.
they've
Oh,
always
all
had
right. Well,
livestock. And one of the feasts, they've always had it.
oh,
Yeah.
good.
That's where you get the fresh sandwiches from.
It's what your sandwich is made out of?
Not quite that fresh, but.
Not quite that rapid.
Like a goat for your yard.
A goat? Oh, yeah. Maybe I get a sheep. Yeah. Yeah. Who knows?
A free lawnmower.
Yeah, I was just going to say free lawnmower. Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is D3, and this is also Rosa Piva for St. Elizabeth's Church for the Santo Cristo Feast. And this is a request for a one-day dancing and entertainment license, June 16th from 6 to 11 p.m., June 17th from 6 to 11 p.m., and June 18th from 6 to 10 p.m.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve it with the recommendations again from the chiefs.
Second?
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so they're having like the three feasts all in a row. They had gone away from that for a little bit, didn't they?
Yes,
Okay, good. Okay.
it's a
well,
good way to use the tent, make use
Right,
of
right,
it.
right.
Once they
Very
put it up,
expensive,
it's a
yeah.
cost savings.
Yes. Okay.
Madam Vice Chairman and members of the council, the next item on the agenda is D4. This is Chuck McDunn, the chairman of the Bristol 4th of July Committee. This is a request for a one-day dancing and entertainment license for Culture Night at the Maritime Center. This is for June 2nd from 6 to 10 p.m.
Based on all the positive recommendations, make a motion to approve?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? I could ask you that earlier, but I'm sorry about that, but outside there's good Portuguese, food, yeah.
Yeah.
Good Portuguese food outside of that in the comments. Okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
The next item on the agenda is E1. This is the dog kennel license renewals for 23-24.
I make a motion that we approve it.
Second?
Any discussion?
Just a comment. That was quite interesting. I didn't realize that we had so many dog kennels in town, all of 9. It's quite interesting. Well, a lot of dog sitting.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Any other comments? Okay, all
No.
in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Any opposed?
Next item on the agenda is F1, and we have John Burke of 8 Bayview Avenue. This is a request for removal of accessible parking space. This is first reading.
Certainly, I make a motion that we approve it
Second?
with a comment.
Any discussion? Yes.
Yes,
yeah.
just, it's appreciated that the folks make us aware of that if they're no longer in use, that we can take the parking spaces back for all purpose.
Yeah, it's
Well
very-
said, Councilman Texer. We know parking is a growing issue, so we really appreciate it.
We sure do. Any other comments?
No.
No? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the ayes have it.
The next item on the agenda is F2. This is Chuck McDonough, the chairman of the Bristol 4th of July Committee. This is a request for permission to use and sell alcoholic beverages at the Maritime Center to hold a cultural night on June 2nd from 6 to 10.
Based on all the positive recommendations, make a motion to approve.
Second,
Any discussion? You can tell we're getting into feast and festival season.
I
right?
know, it
We're
really
just
is
like a great
nice.
event.
It is nice.
Okay.
Busy
Just
all
need
in-
some warmer
busy
weather.
time, yeah. All in favor?
aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed?
Just keep the weather, keep it warming up, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Madam Vice Chairwoman and members of the council, the next item on the agenda is F3, and this is Jose De Silva, the superintendent of the water pollution control. This is a request for no parking on the west side of Thames Street from the intersection of Thames Street and Constitution Street south to the pump station.
And in this
Did you-
case, I believe we refer to the administrator.
Yeah.
I mean, to the solicitor, I'm sorry.
Okay. We'll take a motion and then Jose, if you want to say anything.
So I'll make a motion that we approve, that we to the town solicitor to draft an ordinance.
I'll second the motion with the positive recommendations.
Any discussion here? Jose, do you want to
Jose?
comment on it or is it? I
Sure, I'll-
heard there
I'll
might be an issue
comment,
about measuring. Is there enough space there to?
Well, what it is the road itself is 24 feet, 4 inches wide. And if a pickup truck is parked there, it's taking up 8.5 to 9 feet.
Mhm.
Even today, prior to this, we went out there to photograph it. There was 2 pickup trucks there at that width. That's less than 7.5 feet for our vehicle. Our utility truck the body is 8 feet. Include the mirrors, it's 9 feet. We would try to do a training the other day. Because it's a dead end, we gotta have the trailer and do it in reverse. And that's just too tight a space. And sometimes it's not enough space to get in there. To go forward with the boom truck to do repair work on a pump. Again, you're driving in, but now you're reversing out in that tight quarters. And those pumps are 800 pounds, so we
Mm.
need that boom truck.
Mm.
It's just a matter, and I don't know if I really don't want to put a set time and try. You just never know when you're gonna need to get there.
Certainly makes sense. Do any of you have questions or?
Jose, what happens if we can't get that truck out there?
We'd
Yeah,
have some
no.
time, but at
Yeah.
that point, I'd have to get the police department to come and tow trucks or vehicles out of the way so we could have access.
It could be like maybe a situation where every second counts or something like that.
It might end up being that way before it starts, coming out into the streets.
Yeah.
And I think looking down the road with Robin Rugg, I think it's a smart ordinance to put in place because it's just going to get busier with
Exactly.
a lot of construction going on,
Certainly.
when that takes off.
Okay, anything else? Okay, a motion to approve to send this to the solicitor to develop the ordinance.
Aye.
Thank you.
Aye.
Aye.
I thought the
Did you also
solicitor
know
was
to-
going to comment on it.
Oh, did you want to comment? I didn't see.
Excuse
I
me.
was pulling the microphone for the next one.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
okay.
One step ahead.
Okay. All righty. Go
Madam
ahead.
Vice Chairwoman and members of the council, the next item on the agenda is Fabio Lopes, Bristol Sunset Cafe, 499 Hope Street. This is a request for consideration of one additional Class BV liquor license. I do also want to note that there is a received at meeting, there's a revision to the police department's recommendation. They inadvertently put review of 9 months instead of 6 months. So just to make that
Okay.
note on there.
So the one
Mhm.
thing, is Fabio here?
He is.
I don't see, where is he? Oh, there he is. Okay. So I spoke with him this morning and I also spoke to Representative Donovan. So because of his location, what was attached to this is legislation that they're looking at to just do away from that whole 200.
Repealing.
But this may or may not pass. So we just can't really consider that. So he still needs the legislation for his address to be exempt from that rule. And I don't think it's going to be an issue because there's many other buildings and restaurants in that, within school and church zones. So I spoke to Representative Donovan, and she didn't know, like, it's all been kind of a little confusing from what I gathered, like what comes first. So she's having the legislation drafted today and can put it in tomorrow. All we need to do is provide a resolution. If we agree with this idea that they would be able to have the liquor license and come forward to us, then they would be able to, we can approve that and then have the solicitor and the clerk work with the legislature, get that all squared away once she has the bill number, whatever they need. But we would already have our approval. They can send the resolution forward.
Just, I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, they've been there for already 22 years,
Mhm.
and they've certainly been a good business in town, well-run by the family. It's family-owned and family-operated, and they've done a wonderful job. And they are located in the business district
Mhm.
where currently there is already businesses with liquor license, with full liquor license already. So I'm glad to support this and move forward, if everybody's in agreement, first to refer to the solicitor to draft the resolution on our behalf.
Okay. Anybody else?
And I'll second Tony's motion. Again, I think it's about fairness. We know there's a lot of other businesses that are somehow less than 200 feet from the church. We won't call them out, but, and you've been, as Councilman Texera said, a great addition to Bristol, and I'm definitely in support.
Thank you so much.
So this is just so people are clear, this is a state law that is 200 feet within a church or a school. And so like one building away you have, or a couple of buildings away, you have another
Correct, two
restaurant right
buildings.
there. But you are close to the school and that's why this is required. And so at this point, that would be the best way to go. You don't want to wait until you see if that other one passes.
If
Thank you
I
so
could
much.
suggest that the motion state that you endorse a resolution that supports an exemption of 499 Hope Street from the state law requirement that a liquor license cannot be provided within 200 feet of a school or a church, and refer to the solicitor. In that way, we can plug in all of the
Mhm.
information within the next few days.
Is that your motion, Tony?
That was my motion.
I thought that's what I heard.
I had difficult drafting this, but he did an excellent job for me. Thank
So-
you.
Tony, well said, yeah, and I'll second that motion. So
And we're also going to draft an ordinance to include an additional liquor license in that motion.
Right, but except we can't
No.
do that. Let's hold on that
Okay.
because the legislation needs to be adopted before we can even consider that. So
Right.
Okay.
I'd say continue that to a second motion to continue the request for a liquor license, the creation of a liquor license to a meeting in June.
So
Tony?
Mike, if we pass this and this gets an affirmative vote today, we don't have to have a resolution, physical resolution come before us.
No, we're
good.
going to
So,
handle that. You're
okay.
already endorsing the resolution along those
Okay.
lines. So
All right.
yes, don't
Great.
have to come back. He will have to come back though for you to create a new liquor license.
Yep. Okay.
Right. And I just want to say to that point, a lot of times when there's a new license, this is something that can be discussed, but a lot of times a new license, it's been a limited license of beer and wine for the first 6 months and then see how that goes. So I just wanted to put that out there. You may know that already.
Yep.
Did you want to comment further?
No, I appreciate it. Thank you.
And you're fine with the beer and wine to start,
Yeah,
right? You
of course,
know
yeah.
the condition.
So-
Okay, cool.
Yep.
So that'll be like the next time you come. So it's going to be it's probably going to be like a total of 2 more meetings at least to get the liquor license.
Yep.
If not a little bit longer, but as soon as Representative Donovan, I mean, I would monitor this, and as soon as that legislation goes in, I should also say Senator Ujifuza is going to do the companion bill in the Senate. And as soon as those go through, there should not be any problem with it because it's pretty like standard practice. You'll be able, and once you know it, then you can just come in for your request, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I would suggest.
So we'll make sure that she keeps in touch with us and with the clerk to know that that legislation has passed.
I appreciate it. Thank you guys so
Okay.
much.
Okay, so we have a motion to support a resolution to exempt this building from the 200-foot radius. Any other further discussion? All
No.
in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
And then, Madam Chair, we just need a second motion to continue it for the June meeting, right?
Well, to continue the liquor license, is that what you said?
You wanna,
Liquor license request to the last meeting in June.
so moved.
Oh, he can come in sooner for that if he has the legislation done though, correct?
That's a good point. Yeah, I doubt that the legislation will pass and the governor will sign it before then, but it's a good point. So why don't we just leave it open? And when in fact the legislation passes, you can ask for the same request to be put on the agenda. And if it's, can be done in May or beginning of June, great.
I think they'll work as quickly as I can, but after, even if it passes and waiting for it to be signed or whatever, 10 days
Yeah.
into law, if it's not signed, they'll do the best that they can.
That works for me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Take
Madam
care. Thank you.
Madam Vice Chairwoman and members of the council, the next item on the agenda is G1. This is the Recreation Board. This is for one term set to expire in March 2026 and one term set to expire April 2026. We have Don Squires, who is currently an alternate member, looking for interest in full-term member. Joseph DeMello, also a auxiliary member, looking for interest in full appointment. And we have Kevin Manuel with interest in appointment.
I make a motion that we move the two auxiliaries to full members. And Kevin was already before us. He was already interviewed. I would ask that we appoint him to an auxiliary.
I'll second that.
Just one question. I would, if you wanted to, I would say the first auxiliary is Don Squire, so
Mhm.
put him as the,
First full member?
yeah, the first full member with the latest date.
The
to
latest date,
expire.
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
okay, if that's okay.
good
with
point.
you.
Definitely. Very good point. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, I think that's good. Any other discussion? No, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Madam Vice Chairwoman and members of the council, the next item on the agenda is G2. This is the Capital Projects Commission. This is one term set to expire May 2028, and we have Charles McDunn with interest in reappointment.
Motion to reappoint.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Madam Vice Chairwoman, members of the council, the next item on the agenda is old business, and this is Town Administrator Contente, and this is in regards to a draft memorandum of understanding between the town of Bristol and RIDM relating to the archery hunting for deer.
Okay, so there's a
Maybe there's
revised in
something.
our packet, am I correct?
Oh.
Yeah,
Revised MOU in our late item packet.
Late item, yeah.
received that meeting,
Right?
received that meeting, yeah.
So, right. So, how are you? I forgot your name, but you'll tell us. And so if you recall, this is about, a lot of it is about ticks, more so than because of the number and abundance of deer.
Yes, so Dylan Ferreira, Rhode Island Division of Fish and Wildlife of Swansea, Massachusetts. So we had, in my position, I deal with a lot of constituents that call, in this instance, complaining about the deer issues here in Bristol, whether it be vehicle collisions or ticks, like you mentioned. So the way the deer population is managed in Bristol is through legal regulated hunting.
Mhm.
In Rhode Island, you need written permission to hunt on private property or any property. So in order to increase the harvest, to reduce the negative impacts associated with high deer populations, we wanted to open some of the town properties via an MOU, which would allow legal licensed hunters in Rhode Island to hunt those properties.
Okay, any discussion, comments?
I have some questions,
Mhm.
Madam Chair.
Sure.
Dylan, just some questions. These are some that some constituents had sent me earlier this year. So now I have a little opportunity to follow up. And I think a lot of these things have been already addressed by you in your previous discussion of the hunting situation here in Bristol. But these are some questions that popped up. Will abutters be notified if this policy goes into effect?
Yeah, so we can work with you to do that if you'd like. Some of these properties, like the 100-acre woods property on Tupelo Street, is pretty large. So there are a number of abutters there.
Okay.
But we could use tax parcel IDs and basically work with you. I could help draft a letter, and then we could mail a letter to everybody, or we could send an email if that's what's preferred, or phone calls. But yeah, if that's something you guys wanted to do, I'd be happy to work with you on
Okay.
that.
Let me go ahead.
Are there any ways that you ensure that hunters are operating inside of the 200-foot buffer?
So the 200-foot buffer in terms of the archery distance, not necessarily like that we're doing that we can't monitor every hunter at every second of every day that they're hunting. But we have our law enforcement division that's monitoring for wildlife infractions, such as hunting within too close of a house.
And then in the instance that, there's a deer that, gets shot with the bow and arrow and everything like that, the hunter is required to remove the full
Yes.
carcass, right? And it's not processed right on site
Correct.
or anything like that. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Those are the questions I have for you.
Okay.
Okay, anybody else?
I was just wondering if you could go over there just quickly, the process for the hunters and how they're going to check in with the police department. And I just want to make sure that there's just not willy-nilly anybody, they're licensed, they know what they're doing. They're going out there because, they're close. These are close to neighborhoods. And we just want to make sure it's very, very safe. And also the timing of when it's going to happen as well.
Yeah, so the timing would occur from September 15th through the last day of January 31st. That's the hunting season. In terms of time of day, legal hunting is from a half hour before sunrise to a half hour after sunset. So it's only during quote unquote daylight hours. And in terms of notifying the police, that's something that the town would really want to step in and decide if they wanted to do. The way the MOU is drafted right now, that's not something that we have, and that's not something we discussed prior. So that's not in the current MOU. I would say there are all of our state management areas and other cooperative properties don't have that requirement.
Okay.
And some of those are in, urban areas like Narragansett, Westerly Land Trust properties, the Nature Conservancy properties, and some of those are small parcels that are, in neighborhoods. And we don't require hunters to notify the police. So one of those notification letters that we could do, we would like to just put, the time of day when hunters are expected to be in the area, and then the season dates as well. So September 15th through the end of January.
Sure. And Major Burke, what's your feeling? If you want to look into it, that's fine. But what's your feeling on making sure that we're tracking who's out there and who's hunting,
No
being
different-
abutters to our neighborhoods?
Yeah, it's no different than the waterfowl hunting.
Yep.
We get complaints sometimes during the hunting season on the waterfront from abutting property owners. We go down, we investigate. If we see hunters in the area, we note it and we call DEM for them to follow up with it. So we could do the same with this.
Okay, great.
Tony, do you have any questions?
No, I was just to be clear, so the hunters do not register with the police department in town?
No.
Okay.
Any other comments, discussion?
From my
What is-
understanding.
Oh, Steve, did you have any comments you wanted to make on this?
No, we toured, we spent some time on several site visits at the 4 locations. We actually walked the entire perimeters. Great deal of evidence of deer. We saw deer all over the place. And we're very confident, used as a GPS and was able to flag some points of reference for the hunters to know where to enter. Instructions as to where the best place is to park if we do end up getting hunters from outside the area. So we're comfortable. I've talked with Chief Lynch about the areas. We're comfortable with those four locations. And again, the locations are 100-acre woods, which is north of Tupelo. Gooding property, which is called Skaters Pond. It's behind Seasons. Gooding Avenue in Metacom. Behind the landfill, which would be accessed through a small parcel of town property on Tower Street. And the fourth site is Hopeworth Avenue, the north side of Hopeworth Avenue, like behind the Veterans Home.
Okay, so what is your pleasure, gentlemen?
And I just had one other question. In regards to the total population, we're not wiping it out. We are literally taking a balanced approach. So we're just reducing it. So we're going to be keeping track of how many are going to be hunted.
Correct, yeah. So we have, for Rhode Island, we have legal licensed hunters. They have to buy a license. And then they have to buy deer tags specifically. So every deer that they take, they have to use their deer tag and they report it to us. And that's how we monitor the harvest through time.
Okay.
And we're not trying to completely remove all deer from Bristol.
Yeah, I think that's important that the public knows because these are majestic animals and I know a lot of people enjoy them in their yards. So it's just, we need to control the population.
Agreed.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm
Thank
glad
you.
you brought that up, Tim, because there was a lot of discussion in other prior meetings about the overabundance of deer in our area and how that is just difficult for people, for accidents, and for the deer themselves. Okay, so does anybody want to?
What would be the proper term? Endorse, approve?
The motion would be to approve the MOU as presented between the town and DEM.
Can I
Thank-
just ask, sorry, go ahead. Is there a second?
I'll say.
Second. Any other discussion?
No.
I just have a question, Mike. So in the relation to the notifying the police and notifying the abutters, which is not currently in this,
Correct.
but you said it would be able to be developed. Would that need to be like added to the motion that, you know, either be revised or how would that take place?
So I think the consensus was that we notified the abutters. And so, and you're right, although a statement was made, it's not in here that abutters would be notified. So we would add an amendment. So the motion would be to approve the MOU as amended with a provision whereby abutters would be notified.
The abutters and the police department will be also included in some way or involved in, well, of what is going on and where it's going on.
I think we could provide a copy of this MOU to the police department so they see which 4 areas. But
Okay.
I don't think we're going to notify the police department every time a hunter was.
No,
out.
no. I just want them to be aware of,
That's fine. We'll make sure
okay,
the executed MOU gets to the department.
excellent.
So are you okay?
Yes, I am.
With that addition? Okay, does that satisfy your
Yeah,
issues?
yeah.
Council Chair, I'm not sure, but they're, I know this isn't a public hearing, but I did get 1 or 2 calls today to see if there'd be an opportunity to ask a couple of questions. So I'm not sure if there's any members of the public
Oh,
here.
sure. If there's anybody that has questions, you can certainly come up.
Thank you.
Anybody Here. Still, you might need to stay to answer the questions. Stay close. Okay. Hi, please state your name
How
and
we doing? My name is Bob Daypont.
address.
I'm a deer hunter. I've talked to quite a bit of people in town, some for it, some against it. Some said to me, why can't it just be opened up to residents only? So we can keep better control of who is on the property and when and where. A lot of people said to me, not in my backyard. Because on some of these places, it is in their backyard. So things really have to be like clarified a little bit more because people are really confused in the town. You know, we all know that if a deer is shot over here, the deer doesn't die right there. It could run over there and die. And that's what they're worried about. That's what they're saying, not my backyard. So I'm just giving the views from what people came to me with. Because like I said, I'm a deer hunter. I do hunt in town, the private property. And they just like to keep it to the residents of the only. I know that Dylan, as of the state, does not want to do that. He wants to keep it open. The people say to me, it's town land, our tax money, we should have it residents of the only. Now, I'm just, they'll tell you people, what they're saying out there. They say it to me, like I said, because I am a hunter.
Mhm.
Do you
I
know
do.
about how
We
many
appreciate it.
deer hunters that use like the archery deer hunters that we have in town?
In this town, we probably got 25 to 30 of the bow hunters in this town. And that's why a lot of people don't see no reason to bring people from out of town into town. I just now found a deer camera in the woods off of the Gooding Avenue. In it is a face that no one that I showed it to recognize. The camera was over a corn pile on the ground. I don't like that myself, as a hunter. We have so many deer, there's no need to bait in this town.
Mhm.
I'm just bringing forth the concerns of some of the people that I have talked to, and people that have come up to me in a diner, in the market, on the street. You know, so I'm just their voice. I know that we have a different look at it, but that's how it is, I guess.
Although to your point, though, understood, as you said, not in my backyard. But if I heard it correctly, Councilor Sweeney asked Dylan, will we notify the folks in the surrounding areas? And obviously they'll be notified. So they'll be aware of that things that they can place. And it's possible that a deer gets hit in one area and ends up somewhere else. That's very possible. Unfortunately,
They also
that's-
mentioned the parking, because they look at the parcels of the land. They look at the Gooding Avenue. For instance, and they say, where are the hunters going to park? In the body shop, in the beehive, at the power plant, where they're going to park. People, they're curious on that also. A lot of people said, I don't want it in front of my house. I don't want them parking right in front of my house, getting out of their car in a camouflage and having my children see them.
Mhm. Mhm.
I'm
So
just bringing these
Dylan, the
concerns.
communication will have to be very clear, and as
You know,
far
I'm
as their
just bringing you
process of how
guys
they sign
the
up. and-
concerns from the town people.
Yeah,
I think
You
we
know,
you bring up a lot of
restrict
good
the
points.
parking
You know,
down there.
but they understand that we have to harvest deer here. You know, they understand that it's out of control. You know, we should have done this years ago. And then we wouldn't be today where we are now.
Yeah.
I just wanted to let the council know the concerns of a lot of the Bristolians.
We appreciate it. We appreciate your points.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
thank you. Is there, I don't even know, is it legal, Mike, to like limit it like that if we wanted to, or is it not really?
I think you could legally do that, but I think then what you would miss is all the resources that Rhode Island DEM brings to this to assist us.
Because of
I mean, and as the gentleman just said, the situation is truly out of control at this point. And you can always look at this again a year from now. It's like anything else, when you adopt an ordinance, if it needs tweaking, if for some reason, all of a sudden we become inundated with people from all over I don't see that happen with archery, by the way, but if it does, there's nothing that says we can't go back and modify.
And we can certainly limit like the parking in the neighborhood streets, if that's where they're going to get in.
Oh,
I
if
think
it-
Dylan or somebody mentioned that there was going to be areas where they would go in and out of, but yeah, they might find a little spot that they could sneak in behind.
You can tell me, but you gotta tell them. You gotta tell them.
Right.
Right.
Right. Well, that could maybe go into the that could go into the letter.
Outside that door.
Yeah.
Right.
But
So. oh, sorry.
The fact that
Sorry
they're all
about
going to be notified, that could actually go into that letter, that if there were issues of people parking illegally, whatever, to bring it to the police department's attention, or to us if we needed to add more restrictions in some of those neighborhoods.
Yeah, I'll just add that. So we created the maps that are listed in the MOU, and we have identified those parking areas that I worked with Steve and Ed to identify as well. So we are going to direct hunters to those specific parking areas.
And so Dylan, when they're notified, the public is notified, is there a way for them to sign up for the update? So I just want to make sure that the public in the areas are well communicated too.
Yeah, so
Because he brings up a lot of good points, and we just want to make sure there's a breakdown in communication. This is when things go
Yeah.
awry.
For sure. So we'll have that initial sort of press release. We'll probably do a regular press release
Okay.
regarding Bristol specifically. We'll do that. We'll call it a landowner letter to all the abutters. And then throughout the deer season, we have our traditional press releases that notify the entire public. Archery season starting, shotgun season starting, to wear your orange. Deer are moving frequently this time of year because it's the breeding season. Be careful when you're driving. So we're having consistent press releases throughout the state already. So we'll continue to do those, but we'll definitely have the one landowner one. And then we can do an additional press release targeted just to Bristol, this Bristol opportunity as well.
And Dylan, can you remind us when the deer hunting season starts?
September 15th.
September 15th. So
Okay, if anybody else wants to comment, please just go to the microphone.
Hi, my name is Catherine Quinn. I live at 420 Papasquash Road in Bristol, and recently took over as the president of the Papasquash Neighborhood Association. And over the past year, the most frequent question I've gotten from my residents on the road is, what are we going to do about the deer? And so I'm glad that Bristol is addressing this problem, because I don't think it's my problem to solve. And I love the deer and I love nature, but I know it's an issue because I see on a daily basis 20, 30 on my lawn every morning, and they're eating everything in sight, which is okay. I keep changing my plants because I don't want to kill anything, but I understand the concept of having to control nature. My biggest concern is just informing people, because I have people who are on both sides of the issue, very strongly opposed, very strongly for. And we've had 3 incidents of neighbors maybe inviting poachers onto their properties to hunt with a crossbow, and they've left the carcasses there, and it's been unpleasant to deal with, and DEM has been involved. And I really don't have an answer to give to the neighbors. So I'd appreciate the town, because I've always said, this is not my problem. This is a town, a state. I know it's a state problem. I know it's a big problem that's going on, an overpopulation. So I would appreciate some assistance from the town to what I can say to the neighbors is what is being done to help control the population in a respectful, people who respect nature, but also understand that this is a necessary thing that needs to be done, is to control the population, because it's not good for the deer. It's not good for the neighborhood. So I think the more information that's put out there for the residents of Bristol, the better, because people ask me, I would like to know what's being done on a town level, what's being done on a state level. And I think information is important. And I just want to share resources if people want to ask questions. I'm not an expert in the field, so it's nice to be able to refer people to other people to get more information if they're very passionate about it. I don't have, I don't want to argue with people. What I feel, it's not my personal decision to make, but if people feel passionate about it, what their options are, if they're allowed to invite people onto their property. I had a question about firearms because somebody told me that they were allowed to shoot on their own property. I was told that you're not in Bristol allowed to shoot a firearm, but then I read the law on the town, and it was confusing to me. And then we've had people come down to our road with crossbows and shoot deer and leave them there. So it's becoming a little bit uncomfortable. What's allowed, what's not allowed, what's legal, what's not legal, how we should deal with these situations going forward. I know the police, DEM have been very helpful, but I think it's really good to have clear information of what what is allowed, what's not allowed, and who to go to if there's a problem.
So are you trying to say that you'd like a clean process documented maybe on our town website or
Yes.
something where you could
Yes.
refer those residents or neighbors? Maybe,
Yes, I would love
you
that.
know,
I went to the website today. It's really hard to find information about
Okay.
what's really, and I made a couple of calls and, it's, and I was told, your people are very helpful and they told me the meeting was happening tonight. So I came to, to hear what was going on so that I could report to we have an annual meeting in May and
Okay.
I'd like to be informed and not giving anyone misinformation about what they're asking. I can't make any decisions about what people can do, except I said, put fence up around your property if you,
Right.
that's the best I can advise.
Right.
And I
But if
just,
you had something you could share with them, then it would
it's the
just
most
give them.
important thing.
Right.
Just share, this is where you can go. If you have a problem, call the police, call DEM, who to call, what to do. And hunting season, that's important to know. This is gonna be happening in town because I think whatever happens in Bristol also affects the surrounding areas. I mean, nobody has to hunt down in Papasquash, but if the deer are being minimized in the town, then of course that affects what's going on down
course,
there.
of course.
So globally, and what's going on in the state, obviously, is the same.
Of course.
So
Mr. Administrator, I don't know if that's something maybe we could include on our website, just a process that residents could refer to easily. Thank you.
yeah,
As it refers to private property, like because of that whole thing, and I might suggest that, I don't want to volunteer, Dylan, but I will. Yeah,
Thank you.
I mean, maybe he could come to your meeting in
True, that's a good
annual
point,
meeting
too.
and just talk about the issue because it is like, so on our website, we could either just put something like for private property hunting, these are like a summary of the rules, or go to this link at DEM or whatever, but it would be helpful maybe if you could just have a few minutes on that agenda to talk about what is going
Absolutely.
on. If, this is about, these are those 4 parcels are town property. But I mean, I find it surprising that somebody would take the time to go and shoot deer and then leave the carcass there. I mean, I thought they did it for food and not sport.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's,
Yeah.
yeah. But that's a very
Okay.
good point because, like what are the rules? If somebody just goes on your property, like that's, or like you're saying, people are asking people to come on and do it. And what are the rules for that as well?
Right. Thank you.
You're
Thank you.
welcome.
Steve, did you have a comment?
No, just about the hunting, it is permitted in
Right.
Bristol with landowner permission. But you have to have the state required setbacks. So I think for a firearm, it's 500 feet. So it is permitted as long as you have permission.
Mhm.
So there is hunting going on in Bristol
Oh, yeah.
currently. And this project with those 4 parcels, unfortunately, they're not anywhere near Papasquash. So I'm not sure if it's going to impact that much. But again, we started this partnership with DEM because we're mainly concerned about the spread of Lyme disease and tick-borne illnesses in town, like other communities have in Rhode Island. It happens quick. So that's what our main concern is. I know we covered all this already. And I understand Mr. Dapont, I've been talking with him and he has legitimate concerns. But quite frankly, we need to lean on the experts at DEM to help us through this, something new. And as you said, if things are not going well or they're disruptive, we can certainly come back and I'm sure you're going to hear from the residents. But we've identified the parking areas, identified, as I said, wayfinding sites for the hunters. Yeah, I think we have to go forward. The other thing that surprised me was Fish and Wildlife have provided data on how many legal deer were taken from Bristol through the private property hunting, and it's not a lot, and certainly not going to be enough to make an impact in reduce the herd at all. So
Yeah.
my concern is, Mr. Dapont, I have a lot of respect for him and his advocacy for nature and wildlife and everything, but as an administrator, we need help from DEM, and I think I have to heed their advice right now to get this off the ground and started. And we need them as a partner right now. So, and again, if it's not working, again, I think we have to value their advice right now.
Okay, thank you. Do you have another comment?
The hunters, though, in town, they do wanna, they'll cooperate, with DEM. A lot of the residents, though, like I said, they feel that it should just be opened up to residents only for the first year as a trial of the basis, because when you open that door for the first time, it's going to be a madhouse. You're going to have more hunters in this town than what you're going to have policemen in this town. You're going to have a lot of towners. I've already talked to some people, and they've told me to my face, I can't wait for Bristol to open. And then again, I hear people not in my backyard. And I hear people, I can't wait for it to open. It's going to be a hell raiser when you do open it. Dylan knows that also. It's going to be chaotic for the town, the police, and DEM. So I just want you to keep that in mind, what the residents are looking for. They're looking for town hunters for the first year as a trial basis. And see what they can take out from the town, how many deer that they take out from the town. I shoot 5 deer a year in this town on private land.
Well, I trust that our police department does a very good job monitoring things, and I'm sure if it becomes an issue.
I didn't say that they did.
No, I'm not saying, not saying that you're saying that, not at all. But what I'm saying is addressing your concern that it's going to be a madhouse and very hectic and so forth. But we also have our police department that keeps us pretty well informed and monitoring, the situations in town. And if it becomes hectic, as you pointed out, I'm sure they'll be back to us with some sort of recommendation.
That's like they should have something where if there's a hunter in a certain area and he leaves his vehicle, he should have something to put on his dashboard to indicate to the police, to the DEM, that they are a hunter in there, legally. I talked to Dylan about a proficiency test. If you don't pass the test, you don't hunt the land. Prudence Island does it. So he'll vouch for that. You may want to kick something into the ordinance in that manner. I'm just trying to help too. I want to see it happen, but I want to see it done right. I want to see it done right the first time.
Mhm.
Because there's no going back. Once you do it, it's gone.
Thank you. Thank you for your points.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If you wanted to speak, you can just go right up there. We'll take like one more comment and then move on this topic.
Yeah, hi, I'm David Slip. I live on Wood Street, 274 Wood Street. I've been a resident for 1983. I was just curious, you're talking about notifying abutters. I'm out early, late with a long lens camera doing wildlife photography. These areas that we're talking about, are they going to be signposted that there's hunting season going on there? So at the accesses, like the one off of Gooding, there's access from Hope Street or Metacom Ave off of Hope Street at the end of one of the streets. So they'll all be signed so that we know.
Yeah, it's in the MOU that will
Okay.
post all that.
Okay,
Okay.
that's it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so what is your pleasure? We
Motion
had a
to-
motion.
Right, and we had a
the
second.
We had a
change on
second,
it. Okay, any other discussion on the council?
I'm
Nope,
all
just
set. Thank you.
good luck, Dylan. I hope you have a safe and successful hunting season.
Perfect. Yeah, I just want to say thank you very much.
Okay, well, let
I'm
us-
here if you need me for anything.
Well, let
so.
us vote and then you can thank us.
No, thank
Okay,
you.
Thank you
for
for all the
partnering up
work on
with the
this. 'cause
town.
Bet you've been here several times. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Dylan.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone, for
Yes.
the good comments on this too.
Madam Vice Chairwoman and members of the council, the next item on the agenda is I1. And this is the Firemen's Memorial and Welfare Committee, and this is a request for support of the 2023 sponsor program book.
What have we spent, at what level have we
Last year, we
sponsored?
did the
Was-
200.
We did 2 pages?
Yes, we did. We did two full, as in you, did 2 full pages.
We-
Town.
Out of,
Out
out
of contingency. I would
of,
imagine,
yeah, out of
right?
contingency,
Yeah.
yeah.
So it was $200.
It was
huh?
200 last year, yes.
So I move that
2
we
full pages.
approve again for 200.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye. It's a good fundraiser.
Yes. Good cause to support.
Well, I like the turkey roll a little bit better.
Madam Vice Chairman, members of the council.
It's a super spread.
It's a super spreader
You
event.
like the turkey?
The next item on the agenda is I2. We have Nancy Hood of 274 Wood Street, and this is a request for support of a proclamation welcoming the Golden Rule sailboat.
Is the sailboat one or is this the other one?
This is the proclamation.
Oh, the sailboat one. Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
sailboat.
Okay.
Okay.
I-
Okay, thank you.
I thought that the sailboat was
Thank you,
I
Nancy.
3.
It's an amended one. There was
Oh,
an
okay,
amended
all right,
agenda
okay,
that
okay.
I switched
She
that.
flip-flopped it.
Okay, sorry.
That's okay. We can.
My name is Nancy Hood. I live at 274 Wood Street in Bristol. And I'm speaking on behalf of East Bay Citizens for Peace. So we have 2 items, and first we're going to talk about the Golden Rule sailboat. And it is a national project of the Veterans for Peace, who are now sailing up the eastern coast, promoting peace and a nuclear-free world. The boat, which is a significant history dating back to its first voyage in 1958, will be in Rhode Island in June from the 11th to the 13th. And we're very excited about a plan to have the boat here in Bristol. They're going to be docked in Bristol on the 13th of June from 11 to 1. The public will be welcome to board the boat and talk with the crew. There'll be opportunities to learn more about their voyage and their mission. There are other events linked to their visit are in the planning stages. So we hope that the town will reaffirm its commitment to peace and recognize this historic visit with a formal proclamation of welcome to the Golden Rule.
Great. I'd like to make a motion to approve the proclamation.
Second.
Any discussion? No? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Vice Chairwoman, members of the council, the next item on the agenda is I3, and this is Nancy Hood, 274 Wood Street. This is a request for support of a resolution for international campaign to abolish nuclear weapons. And Nancy did provide an amended resolution that I gave as received at meeting.
Packets, yeah. Okay, Nancy.
Thank you. So we have presented you with the city's appeal resolution in support of the United Nations Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons, and that's a mouthful, so I'll refer to it as TPNW from now on. This resolution is part of the international campaign to abolish nuclear weapons. And locally, Jamestown, Little Compton, and East Providence have already passed similar resolutions, as has the Rhode Island Senate. The TPNW is a treaty which has been in force since January of 2021. The Holy See was the first to sign and ratify. Since then, 67 other countries have signed and ratified it, and another 27 have signed. This treaty makes nuclear weapons illegal under international law, just like chemical and biological weapons are. It prohibits the use, production, and stockpiling of nuclear weapons. It does not suggest that any of the 9 countries that have nuclear weapons unilaterally disarm. And we sent the council some information from the lawyer we've consulted clarifying very clearly that even if a nuclear armed country such as the US signs, we're not talking about unilateral disarmament. If they ratify, we are not talking about nuclear unilateral disarmament. And there's always in the process a way for a country to amend, to pull back from this. So there's a whole process for this. And I don't know if you got a chance to read that information from Bob Watt. But we can read it later if you want to know more, if you have questions about that. Okay. So countries that ratify and don't have nuclear weapons are agreeing to never attain them. Countries with nuclear weapons that ratify would be agreeing to abide by this law and pursue a verifiable agreement among nuclear armed states to eliminate their nuclear arsenals. If signed by the US, it could lead us back from the brink of nuclear disaster. We're now living in a time when the danger of nuclear disaster is more critical than ever before. And I think a lot of us have become more aware of this. For many years, we've had our heads in the sand about this issue, but it and climate change are the two most serious threats to existence. And as the intensity of the conflict between the US and Russia increases over Ukraine, so does the critical danger of nuclear war. And we have Putin talking about nuclear arms. And the most recent strategic arms reduction treaty between the two nuclear powers is unraveling. At the same time that US and Russia are updating their arsenals. So we're going in the opposite direction that we need to go in. In January, the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists calculated that since last year, the doomsday clock has moved from 100 seconds to 90 seconds to midnight. There is a commonly held belief that we need nuclear weapons for deterrence. Although the balance of these weapons between the US and Russia has prevented a war so far, it has not kept us safe. We're not safe as long as these devastating weapons could be set off at any moment by mistake, miscalculation, diplomatic crisis, or miscommunication. And Wikipedia lists over 15 such close calls. Former Secretary of Defense Robert McNamara agreed that nuclear weapons have not kept us safe. He argued that we have not survived this far into the nuclear era because we had wise leaders or a sound military doctrine or infallible technology. Rather, he said, and quote, "We lucked out. It was luck that prevented nuclear war." That gives me goosebumps. I don't know about you. He was a strong advocate for nuclear disarmament, as were former Secretary of State Henry Kissinger and former Commander of Strategy Forces, General George Lee Butler. The Rhode Island Senate led the way last May when Senator Wally Felag introduced Resolution S-2423, urging the federal government to pursue a broad range of measures to reduce the danger of nuclear war and to sign and ratify the TPNW. The Rhode Island Senate passed that resolution by an overwhelming majority, making Rhode Island one of 5 states that has passed resolutions supporting the TPNW. Now, if you're wondering why should Bristol get involved, let me say a couple of things about that. It's because in a democracy, important decisions are always made on the basis of wise citizens' understanding and advocacy. What could be more important than for Bristol to be considering this issue that threatens the lives of everybody here in the room and everyone in the town of Bristol? Why wouldn't Bristol want to join the 70 other US cities and towns around the country which have endorsed the TPNW? I've already said Jamestown, Little Compton, and East Providence have passed similar resolutions, but let me give you an example. Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, Boston, Bangor, Exeter, Anchorage, New York City, Salt Lake City, Tucson, Denver, LA, Honolulu, Minneapolis, San Francisco, and that's just naming a few. I didn't tell you all 70. So there's a lot. And why wouldn't we want to join these other cities and towns that are making a clear statement to our federal government that this is an issue, that nuclear weapons threaten the existence of everyone And we want our federal government to sign on this treaty and take the step back from the brink. What could be more important for us to consider? So I hope that you will pass this resolution and join in the call for a nuclear-free and more peaceful world. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy.
Any comments, questions?
I-
I mean, did you want to?
Yes, I'll start. First of all, do I believe nuclear work? No, I don't. I've read enough about what happened in Japan, okay, when we dropped there, no question about it. However, I'm against giving up any options. We don't give options when our own families for protection. We are the first on the line of duty to protect our own families at home. Police hopefully will arrive on time when you call them to be there, and I know they will respond. That's not a question about our police here in Bristol. However, so I don't believe that we should give up options. We should not give up options about protecting Bristol. Neither should we give up options about protecting the United States and provide those options to the military and to the government as needed and as necessary. So that being said, I'm against it.
Anybody else? Any other comments?
No, well, thanks, Nancy. I think that your group here brings an
Mhm.
important perspective. I know that you guys have been working on these issues for a while now. I think that we can ultimately agree if with all the saber rattling that's going on right now internationally and everything
Mhm.
like that, that we would here in the northeastern United States be directly impacted by any type of accidents or any
Mhm.
type of aggression or anything like that happens. I think certainly the other thing to keep in mind with this particular resolution is that it wouldn't require us to give up any of our way of defending ourselves unless
right.
everybody else
That's
gave
right.
up.
It would not.
There are specific ways that these international bodies ensure that there's compliance with treaties and everything like that. There's verification and everything
That's
like
right.
that. I had a good conversation with my colleagues at URI about
Mhm.
this in the international relations program. And these are the types of ideas that they've been working on for a long while now. So again, I think it's an important perspective. I think there are normal accidents that happen. There's books that are written about normal accidents
Yeah.
that say that it is only a matter of time before
Mhm.
a nuclear accident actually happen, and they have happened in terms
That's right.
of nuclear power production and everything like that. But there's been a lot written about the possibility of something like that happening with nuclear weapons and everything like that.
Right.
And it's only a matter of time before an accident really happens. And books, they're called normal accidents. I mean, they make
Right.
it very simple. Like
But
this
one
book
of
is
these
about normal
accidents and
accidents.
we're all done.
What's that?
One of these accidents and we're all done.
Exactly. And so again, I think it's an important perspective to listen to. I appreciate the work that you guys are doing. I hope that you're successful in your efforts because I think mankind depends on it. And I certainly agree with the Senate resolution that was put forward by Senator Felag. So I'm inclined to support this. I'll make a motion to adopt the resolution.
Okay. Do you want to hear any other remarks from people at this point? You mentioned stories. We have one of the stories from Wikipedia of an event that brought us almost to the brink.
I don't
Is that
really-
something you're interested in
I don't
hearing,
think
or
it's
do you feel
really
like you've heard
I don't
enough?
think it's really necessary because I
Okay.
think we all pretty much really understand the issue.
Okay.
Yeah.
Unless
I'll
my
s-
colleagues feel different.
I'll second the motion. I support the resolution. I mean, we are really witnessing history with like Ukraine fighting for its democratic freedom right now.
Mhm.
And Putin was moving nukes to the border of Ukraine, which means that any single nuclear warhead goes off, it would kill thousands of people and have long-lasting humanitarian and environmental consequences. And if a nuclear bomb was to happen around this area, there would be zero government help because of the radiation fallout. There wouldn't be any way to get to people for a very long time. So this resolution, I think, is a great symbol that Bristol understands that nuclear weapons are unnecessary to resolving long-lasting conflicts. And I think we need to take those steps. Still, no crazy unhinged leader should have the right to obtain that type of power to destroy at a mass level. So I just wanted to say that piece and say that I do support the resolution, that it is extremely destructive.
Thank you.
Yes, second, I second Aaron's motion.
Yes. So my thoughts are kind of a combination of all that I've heard. I certainly, I think in the long term, I mean, no one wants to see, nuclear weapons. Nobody wants to see an accident. Nobody wants to be in the middle of a nuclear war or a chemical or a biological war either. And we do have a lot of crazy leaders out there in the world that we have no control over. I do agree that on the big picture, like on the big perspective, this is like aspirational.
Yeah.
And that's how I view this and why I would support it. Because I also agree with Tony, like there is no way that I would want to see us, and I know you're not suggesting it, but like unilaterally disarm.
Right.
I know that we have had many nuclear treaties between some of the countries and they kind of are falling apart in some of those. So, I mean, it's almost better to, like, can you reduce them and then eventually lead to not having them? I don't know if that's possible in this world right now. And it does. And when I spoke with you on the phone, there's some commentary about back towards nuclear power, nuclear submarines, and how we might harness, I forget the name of that power, I forget what it's called, and so this doesn't have anything to do with that either right now.
No,
This
we're
is
not
just about the
talking about that.
weapons.
This
I mean,
is just
It's
nuclear
very
weapons.
scary
Just the
to see
weapons.
Russia moving stuff into like some of the other, like Belarus, wherever they're moving them into, and it's the strategic, nukes. So I'm going to support it because I'm viewing it as like aspirational as to something that we should all strive for.
Yes.
And it's not going to happen right this minute. I know it just can't
No.
right now because we're in crazy times. So that's my thoughts, a little bit of everybody's views in a way. So, any other comments?
Just, I
Okay.
think we have a motion on the table.
Go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, just clarify. It's not that I don't think it would do quite a bit of damage. It would be very harmful
No.
to many of us. There's no doubt in my mind about that. There's no doubt whatsoever. But we just look at what's happening right now, Russia and Ukraine, Korea shooting missiles right over Japan, China surrounding Taiwan. I mean, things are getting pretty drastic, and giving up options, as Mary pointed out, yeah, we can aspire to have,
Right.
definitely. I
That's
would
what we're
love to
talking
see
about, is
no one
aspiring.
use nuclear.
Well, there's
okay?
no
But
winners
that-
with a nuclear war.
Right.
Let's be clear about that.
There's no winners for like 30 years.
No doubt
after,
about
with the
that.
radiation fallout. You'll die of
Yeah.
some cancer.
Yeah.
I mean, it's devastating.
Right, but I just don't think we should give up options, period.
Oh,
That's
of course.
No, I agree.
And I don't think this is, this resolution is
Mhm.
touching on that. So
Okay, thank you, Tony, everybody. Okay, all in favor of approving the resolution?
Aye.
aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you so much. The
Thank
ayes
you.
have
Yeah,
it.
thank you
Thank
for
you,
bringing
Nancy.
it up. Thank you.
Madam Vice Chairwoman and members of the council, the next item on the agenda is I4, and we have Patrick Roche of Good Energy, and this is a presentation of the draft community electric aggregation plan.
Hi, good evening, council.
Hi.
So
Good
my name is
evening.
Patrick Roach. I'm with Good Energy, who is the town's consultant for community electricity aggregation. I believe you've heard from my colleague Jamie Rhodes in the past.
We did.
So I am Good Energy's Director of Innovation. I've worked with all of the 7 other Rhode Island cities and towns who have just launched their community electricity programs, or they're in the process of launching in May of this year. So what I'm doing tonight is, back in August of last year, council authorized the town to move forward with pursuing community electricity aggregation. And the first step in that process is to develop a plan that can go out for public review. And we've worked with the town administrator and the community development office to to draft a plan. So my hope tonight was to review some of the key points of that and ask the council to consider opening up a public review period. And that would include scheduling a public hearing so we could get all that feedback and ultimately potentially, revise the plan and bring something back for you to consider. The process is, there are many steps in this process, and this local approval is the first major one. After that, the plan would go to the state's Public Utilities Commission for their review and approval. And that's taking about 3 months at this point. And once you're approved, then the town sort of has the option to start its program whenever the town and the electricity markets are ready. So the main point there is sort of moving forward with sort of public review of the plan is not necessarily starting the program. There are more checks in this process. So yeah, if it would kind of please the council, I could do a quick overview of some of the key elements of the plan that was included in the packet for tonight, and then take any questions on that.
What is your pleasure? I mean, I think we could either do that briefly, or we can move just to schedule a public hearing, whether it would be as part of a council meeting or as a separate workshop. I mean, when this has been presented before, there was a great deal of comment out there in like the local press type of thing. And I think people are concerned about being tied into something that may not be their choice and how that all works. So I think we definitely want that input from our community. So do you want to hear like a summary of the program again, or do you just want to go to scheduling a public hearing?
I'm fine with going with a public hearing to.
If that's okay
move
with
forward.
you, so I think that presentation that you would have to do and how, people opt in or opt out or needs to be presented at that meeting.
Yeah.
And people's view. So the only thing I don't know is if we should have this as part of a meeting, a regular meeting, or if we should have this scheduled on a different evening, because it may be kind of involved, and hopefully we'd get a good response from people.
I
So
think
that's
maybe
what
a separate evening might be better. That way it can be specialized in this, because this is a big step. And
step.
as we both know, it needs to come down to the plan of whether we can save residents money as well as being environmentally effective as well. So that's my input.
Could I ask a clarifying question? So I think this public review period is through community development. It doesn't have to be a town council hearing.
Yeah, I think that's true. As long as we have to appropriately notice it, including
Right.
twice in the
But
papers.
it doesn't, unless you want to.
I think we want it to be.
Okay.
I mean, I
Fine.
think we
Yeah.
want to hear from people as well, because we're ultimately making the
So
decision.
you want to sponsor it as
Yes.
opposed to, okay.
I mean, it's-
I would. I don't
I
know
think
what
we
my
do.
other colleagues think,
Yeah.
but Aaron,
Then
I don't know what you
I
think, but
agree, you probably,
I don't think we.
given the past feedback, you might want to, I don't know if you're going to want to do this at a regular meeting.
And
No,
that's
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 what's being-
the-
Yeah, I think we're gonna
and
have
Mike,
another-
that's what I'm saying. I think my input is we break it out to a special meeting, only because there could be a lot of questions.
Yeah.
And yeah,
and just the presentation.
I've been in other towns.
Yeah.
2 towns I'm affiliated with, Barrington and South, they have adopted it, but they've gone through this whole process. So
Sure.
people know about it, understand it. And I think once questions are answered and people understand, there's not this panic about, oh, you're going to make me do something, right?
Mhm.
Right.
It's an opt-out program, not an opt-in program.
Mhm.
exactly.
I do have one question before we move on to anything. It's been a while since you guys have been before us. Is there anything major change since the last time you were here? For instance, any new towns that have been participating that we don't not yet know about? I think we were the last one, right? Is there anybody that's come after Bristol?
There's the 7 communities that are launching in May. And then we're also working with Middletown right now to develop their plan. So they're about at the same spot is they've got a draft plan. They're looking to schedule their public hearing. And we are starting to talk with some other communities now that these other programs have launched and they're getting some press and some awareness. So we're seeing a number of other cities and towns kind of say, hey, can you tell us about this? So, but you and Middletown are the two kind of moving along. And I think, some of the other things are, we were here last summer, I think, when the council authorized, interestingly, winter didn't really show up for most of North America this year. And so we went from having some of the highest natural gas prices in the last decade to now markets being at a all-time low. So that presents some good opportunities too. So I think that's just like a sort of a small snippet of an update, but it's also, I think, says it's a good time to continue to look at this program because things have moved back in a pretty favorable direction.
Definitely. I mean, we're excited to save our residents money. If we can save them money, we're all about it. And being environmentally conscious as well. It's a win-win on both sides. So thank you.
Okay, so is there a motion to schedule a public hearing on a separate evening?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? So Madam Clerk, when you can maybe send some timed out to all of us.
Okay, great. So yeah, I'll follow up on that. We just have to make sure we have enough lead time to advertise it. So I can follow up with you on that. Great.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Patrick.
much.
Yep, thank you.
Madam Vice Chairwoman and members of the council, the next item on the agenda is I-5, and this is Town Clerk Adira with the draft resolution in support of legislation relating to the health and safety of vital records, if I may.
If you may. Let us think about
Oh, is
that.
that what
Yeah,
that is?
front and center.
So as you are aware, local registrars have held our vital records since the early 1600s, and we've preserved the history of our residents in our community for a really long time. And recently, the Department of Health established an electronic format on how they process the vital records. And we support the system entirely because it's a really convenient way for them to store the documents. But there's kind of been an unintended consequence where the records are being requested to be moved to the state archives once they become public records. So death records after 50 years and birth and marriages after 100 years. And so what this legislation will do is just ask that they allow the local municipalities, cities and towns to still access that after that time period, just to ensure that there's easy access of records for our residents here and to ensure that the history of the families of this town stay locally for people too. So I ask that the council support the resolution.
Okay,
Kindly.
I'm a little confused. So you want us to retain the records here in town or allow them to go to the archive, but
So the state
be
currently,
accessible?
in the legislation, after the 50-year period, so for instance, the death records after 50 years, when they become public records, they're removed from that electronic format, so
Mhm.
we can't access them. So we're asking that the Department of Health allow us to still access those records, because if not, residents will have to go to the state archives to get any of those documents. They will
Gotcha.
not be allowed to do any geological research or be able to obtain those records here in their local municipalities. And
Mhm.
we won't have a record of it.
Right, so the physical records still will be transferred to the
It's-
archives.
It's still transferred to the archives. They will not take that
Mhm.
away. So those records will be archived with the Secretary of State's office. It just allows the local municipalities to access those records as we've
Gotcha.
had since the early 1600s.
Okay, and any other comments? Is there a motion? So you're asking for a resolution to support this. And what do you think the chances are of it passing? I mean, does it look good?
A lot of the municipalities have already passed a lot of these resolutions. So yeah, we're hoping, because I think it was unintentional when they wrote that legislation, thinking that it would just go to the Secretary of State, not realizing that we wouldn't have access to that. So I think there's a very good chance that it passes.
Okay,
Make a motion to support the resolution. It definitely reduces the hindrance on our ability to maintain our history. So it's moving with the times. I think it's a good step forward.
Thank you.
Second.
any other discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Madam Vice Chairman, members of the council, the next item on the agenda is I6, Town Clerk Kadzero, and this is with proposed ordinance amendments to replace the term handicap with accessible disability in the section 16-48. If I may.
If you may.
So this is just more to just clarify some of the terms that we have in the local ordinance to reflect the language that aligns with current standards and what's on the state law. So it's just to kind of clean up the ordinance.
I have a question, Melissa,
Yes.
about this. I don't have a problem with it because it's relating to the specific,
Mhm.
ordinance, but is there a move afoot to kind of go back and clean up the references in all of our ordinances? Or is that down the road, or like, what is your thoughts about that?
As in all the ordinances in the whole entire town code or specific to
Yeah, I
the,
mean, like if there's references to like handicap, to change that to more current language.
Yeah, I think that those will come along when we have instances that come up and when we see that some clarity or some amendments need to be made, that we kind of make those going forward. To go over that whole code would be
Mm.
very time consuming.
So as issues come
I
up. we
believe
change
as
to different
issues come up,
sections.
that's how
Okay.
we can do
I
that.
kind of thought both of those things. I was just
Mhm.
wondering. Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Okay,
No.
A motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve it. Well, refer to the solicitor. I thought so, China.
I actually have it, yeah.
I'll second the motion.
So Mike, does this, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
discussion. Okay. Mike, does this have to go through a public comment and everything? Because it's just a substantive or not a substantive change, but
No, it wouldn't have to be a public hearing unless a number of individuals asked for it. It'd be just your
Oh,
normal
okay.
amendment to an ordinance.
okay. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, motion to send to the solicitor to draft the ordinance. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Madam
Melissa,
Chair.
you've been busy.
I know. I've been reading the ordinances, so I guess they are getting done. Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chairwoman and members of the council, the next item on the agenda is I7, and this is Town Clerk, and this is amendments to the parking violation schedule found in 16-45, if I may.
Yeah.
So there's a couple of violations that are listed within the code, like sections 340, 16-343, 16-151, that actually state these particular violations with overnight parking on Church Street and parking boats and trailers in Independence Park and overnight parking. And they're written within the code. However, we do have a parking violation schedule, which they're not listed in. So this is just to kind of be more transparent and clarify what those fees are instead of people having to kind of read through every single ordinance to review it. So that's more for clarity and transparency. So I'm requesting that amendment. Requesting to send to the solicitor for draft ordinance.
Okay, yep.
Oh,
so-
thank you.
Motion to send it to the solicitor to draft an ordinance. It's streamlining and it's making it easier for the public to access the information. I think it's a good move.
Second.
Okay, any other discussion?
Madam Clerk, what's
Yeah.
next? What else? What are you
I'm not
doing?
next on the agenda.
What are you doing with your free time lately?
I think
She's given enough work to the solicitor.
Yeah.
She's gonna go for 3 wins here, so let's, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay, so Melissa, you're on a roll.
Yeah, I'm on a
though.
roll.
Yeah, Melissa, I hope you take the weekend off.
You heard it here. I know. I heard that. Very quick. Next item on the agenda is I8, and this is the Bristol County Elks Lodge, and this is a letter that was given to the town administrator regarding the impact of the new town marina.
Okay, so who wants to talk about this to begin with? Anybody can come up who wants to speak. Steve, why don't we start with you?
Yeah, I'll open it
Yes.
up. I received this communication from the Elks Club, and it was asking for temporary relief until a long-term plan could be developed. To sum it up, the Elks Club are claiming that as a result of our construction of the wave attenuator that goes out into the harbor, it's caused a refraction of the waves. The waves are actually coming back south towards the Elks Club property, especially when there's a south wind, and it's causing their floats to be unstable, unbalanced, difficult to use. So the letter was addressed to me and asked for, after they met with the Harbor Commission, they're asking for eight slips. And we just, the harbor master and I spoke together, and we just don't feel as if we have that authority to grant eight slips. So that's why it's here before the council. Greg Marsili, the harbor master, is also here. He has some suggestions. But that's why it's here. It just needs to be discussed with the council, in my view.
Okay, thank you. Hi, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good, good, thank you.
I'm Ken Belanger. I'm an Elks member and part of the, one of several members on the dock committee. I think I was chosen to speak. I might be the shortest, but thank you for listening to the issue we have. I mean, this goes back to the, as gentleman mentioned, us being unable to use the dock as we previously had to take boaters. I know my own personal experience. I told people my father was born and raised here, went to St. Mary's and passed away at the Veterans Home. You know, I was able to take him and my mom to the dock all the time and use it. And then the past year, I mean, he's since passed away at the Veterans Home. I still come with my family members, and I was unable on 2 separate occasions to tie the boat up that I've been captaining for over 30 years. And I pulled into the town's dock. I'm not a marine engineer, but I am a civil engineer. I surf, so I'm somewhat familiar with wave actions. And overall, the Elks, you know, we feel that we've just been part of the Bristol community forever. We have do a lot of things, we believe, as far as scholarships to children, backpacks, bringing the veterans down to this particular boat dock to fish. And since then, I mean, some of it is maintenance issues on our own part. The dock has broken, but you can, if you go out there, anybody, even if you're not a marine engineer, you can see the refraction of the waves from the new dock that has been built out there. The analogy I've used to explain to someone out, because I'm in the real estate business, if I was, you see a lot of the residents, the market has gone up and you see new development in the suburbs. If I had a 10-acre site and I wanted to go in and put in roads and houses, I would create a lot more drainage, because the impermeable rainwater that goes, it gets transferred. And if my engineer, I said, look, okay, I can get 8 lots in here without doing a detention pond to control that water, as opposed to 6 if I did. And we just negate that. Well, then we'd be flooding people's houses, homes, and that. So that's not right, because we did try to go through the process. It's a learning experience for us, something we didn't anticipate. As we mentioned, we did have representatives at the harbor commissions requesting, you know, how could this happen? Because the actual design of this structure, I think it was developed in Sweden or something, is to keep the area inside the marina calm, which they should, but then it reflects the waves off. I mean, the waves aren't just going to dissipate, it's energy, and they got to go someplace. You see some of these marinas in Fall River, they might have a 50-foot belt of tires that catch the waves, and it kind of absorbs some of that energy, gives a little roll. Well, this is more barrier and just reflects it, and it's pushed into our Elks dock, and it actually goes over to the Coast Guard as well, to the point where we can't safely tie up our boats. I've gotten off, fortunately, a couple of times, and I just told my brother, who was captaining at the time, I said, we're out picking up the ropes and going. So as a temporary solution, because we've heard there's studies possibly going on, the Army Corps of Engineers, maybe putting out another jetty or barrier out past the Coast Guard station that would make things calmer in the area. We're like, that's great, but we would like our families and parents and stuff to still be enjoying, to go by little boat rides at night. I come in from Warren around the point when it's nice, and use the dock space. And while these things are being worked out, we're asking as a temporary solution, as the gentleman mentioned, to provide us with 8 spaces at the dock closest to the walkway, because we do have elderly, and actually we have young folks that are in wheelchairs. So we want to make it as accessible as possible for them to still have the ability to use that. Some of the issues, you know, we try to dig into with the coastal or the Harbor Commission, I should say. And, from what we know, their mission statement is to protect everyone in the harbor. And so one of the questions at the meeting was brought up, well, why didn't the engineer, review that action if that's what it was designed for? And I believe your harbor master went back and asked that question. Some of the minutes of that meeting basically said that our engineer on the subject of a refraction of the nearby Elks docks, that they indicated that since they were not asked about it, they did not accommodate consideration in their plans. Well, that's like me if I was doing my development in that neighborhood and tell my engineer, don't consider it in your plans. Well, that engineer should walk away from that job, say, no, I have a responsibility to make sure we don't harm downstream people from flooding, just like this engineer had a responsibility to make sure that his design didn't harm neighboring docks or peoples as well. So hopefully there is a permanent solution in the long run, but what we propose, we hope is acceptable to you all for consider, and that's why we're here for that consideration this evening.
Okay, thank you. Any questions?
I just have a few questions, Madam Chair.
Yes.
Thank you for bringing this issue to our attention. I was curious, you're asking for 8 slips. Why 8? How did that number come up?
The 8 slips came up. If you look at our present dock, and I don't know if we brought it with us, but we have, pitch, depending on the size of boats, we believe we can get close to 8 in there. And we still have the ability, if we want, I got pictures, I believe, this gentleman with at least 5 boats. Some of them are larger, some of them smaller, depending because we're on the outside, we can raft up other boats attached, where if you're in actual dock spaces in the marina, you can't raft up. And then we still have the ability to expand our dock. It'd be real simple for us to put another T-type extension onto the dock and add more boats. So based upon the current situation, if you see the pictures and that's how we came up with that number. So, and we honestly don't know how long the resolution on a permanent basis is going to take. And I'm not sure if it's going to be the city that actually does it or the Corps of Engineers. I do know if it's the Corps of Engineers, it could be past my lifetime getting old. I've dealt with the Corps of Engineers on several permits myself and different state agencies on things like this, and it just takes forever to deal with them. So we're asking for a temporary solution so we can still let our members enjoy what we have in the past.
Sure. And the refraction, is that happening in a certain number of knots, or like when the wind speeds are at a certain point, the tide, are you talking about 24/7? There's refraction happening.
It depends. If the wind's coming from the north, you're not going to see much. It's going to be calm. But if it comes with our prevailing winds from the south, you'll see it. And it doesn't have to be a rough day. If it's not a rough day, quite honestly, you'll still see the refraction. My boat's a big old heavy Rampage made here in Warren, Rhode Island. It can take it. Some of the smaller boats will be bouncing around a lot more. And once again, depending on the size of the boat, the age of the individual, their abilities to get on and off, and the weather and the wind direction, it impacts it all, sir. So.
Well, Madam Chair and colleagues, reading through what they were saying, I think we're going to need to, if everybody's in agreement, we should probably refer this to the harbor master and the harbor commission to get a recommendation from them, and maybe refer this also, get the Mike or Silo involved as far as any sort of liability issues that may open us up to. And so my motion would be to get a recommendation and continue this to the May 10th meeting. Just so we can look into this a little bit more. I don't know what you guys think.
I'll second that.
Okay.
Further discussion. Aaron, did you have something?
Yeah, no, I just had a question about, and you'll have to pardon my ignorance. I grew up on lakes, not the ocean, so we dealt with things a little bit differently out there. So you have the 4 spots for the boats over at the Elks, and then you're looking for the 8 slips over in the new marina or the town marina. Now, are you only looking for those 8 slips in the town marina when it's so bad out that you need to be able to use them? Or are you not going to be parking your boats here anymore over at the Elks because because you're worried, like, I guess the wind could kick up at any time, right?
That is correct. I mean, I don't know how you regulate that, is the answer. I mean, I don't know what days it's going to be windy, one day's not. So we would want it accessible 24/7, 365 days a year. I mean, is it going to be used all the time? Like I said, I can tell you myself and other individuals, like this the gentleman I believe here this evening, whose brother's in a wheelchair. It's much easier to get out at the Bristol Elks. I don't want to, I'm not getting any younger. I would prefer putting my boat at the Bristol Elks dock and not having to walk around. So quite honestly, even if it is available, if it's calm enough, I'm going to pull my boat in the Bristol Elks. It's that simple because it's easier for me and more convenient. But to know what the weather's like and how somebody would monitor that and judge it, say, well, this day the wave height isn't too bad for a 28-foot rampage, but maybe for an 18-foot, Boston whaler or something like that. How do you manage something like that? So we try to take that into consideration. Say, well, we don't know. We just think because we didn't have to worry about it before, we didn't create the issue. We want to, we think we're good neighbors and hopefully everybody's fair. And if you're a good, friendly neighbor, you just want to be fair with one another. And so that's what we're asking for.
Thank you.
Okay, just for clarification, I'm not quite clear. So will you continue to install the docks at the Elks though?
Yes, sir.
Regardless of monitoring, okay, so you will install those, but in addition to those, you're requesting 8 more slips at the marina.
That is the current plan. Yes, sir.
Okay.
So I have a question. At
Yeah.
any given time, say during the week in September, are there 8 boats tied up at your place?
I don't know, man. I'm not, typically, like I say, if the wife or mother-in-law, someone wants to go, it's a nice calm night, we go because we just go right around the point under the bridge. It's beautiful to go. The only time I've seen that many boats where I've had it turn out really is 4th of July weekend typically. And normally if we do that, we want to go. I actually don't even go in there. I stay just outside the harbor because I don't want to fight the traffic on the way out. So that's why I say some of these things are just, it's difficult to monitor the weather, the size of the boat, the people. It's just, I do not have an answer for that.
It just seemed like a lot of slips for like a 24/7, 365, as you said, because there's times where it may, like we would have to have these areas reserved and nobody might be using them because nobody's out there around their boats, like 365. How many people are coming in the middle of February to any of these docks? But also like a hot summer Sunday afternoon might be quite different than a Wednesday afternoon
I
in the
agree
same
100%.
month. And I think that is something that I think needs to be thought through a little bit more.
Well, I agree 100%, but how do you monitor the weather? How do you monitor wind direction? And quite honestly, I believe you bring up an excellent point. I would say 2 of those slips are because of potential, like I say, expansion. So, is the number today 6? And the question becomes to the town is, when will the issue be resolved? If it's going to be in the next 2 or 3, 4, 5 years, then maybe the number is different. If it's going to stretch out for how long, and then we lose the opportunity to continue to expand ours just for a few more, because our membership, we've actually closed it down at 2,000 because things have gotten so busy there now. So it just kind of, I own waterfront property. As a property owner, I have a right to expand this and that. We don't have that right now, or we'd be foolish to do it. And so in the short term, I would agree with you, but we're trying to think long term. And so maybe the town looks at, okay, for the first number of years, the number 6, if it goes beyond 5 years or so like that, we'll come back and consider it. Because I agree, we don't know. I don't have a crystal ball on the weather and the sunshine and how many people are going to show up.
I mean, your busy times would be the same as our busy times, right? I mean,
Yes,
whatever, it would
exactly.
be the same times, but I just can't, I just don't understand, like, you would know how many people are in your place, like by how much you sell of food or alcohol, whatever the case may be, to know like what your busy peak times are. And like, I don't understand why you would ask the town to sort of, I understand the problem that you are saying that we allegedly created, okay? But why would we tie up all these dock spaces that we could be getting revenue for when there may be nobody at the Elks hanging out and sitting down there anyway? And if like, so if you have 100 people a day, how many come by boat? You know, is it like 75, 20%, 10%, 5%? I mean, I just think there's a lot of questions about like the amount that's being asked for and in relationship to the various times of day and evening, busy times, not busy times. You know, it's like vacation time, non-vacation time, fall, spring, summer.
Well, I mean, I don't know how to
I don't know how we
respond more
solve
than
that.
the fact that we had our dock. We were able to use it. You know, if I had an extra car and my neighbor backed into it, totaled it, and I get it fixed, well, it might have been my thing I drive on a Saturday. I had the ability to drive it when I wanted. I mean, it was still mine. And that it was the elk stock. So
Right.
whether one person uses it or 8 people use it, whether it's one day, we still had the ability to use it every day. And we didn't create an issue there. And so we're just saying we would still like the ability. And so we just want something that's fair so our members can still utilize that and have the same enjoyment that I know I did with my family and continued to, and hopefully my son does that for me as well.
Mhm. Just one more question. Was there never ever a problem with the winds and those docks in the past?
Well, there are rough days, I can promise you. Like I say, my boat, I believe, is a very sturdy boat. People might want to go over there and say, oh, Ken, let's jump in. I'm not going out today. Just
I mean,
because.
prior to our new
Yeah,
dock,
I'm just saying,
there's problems,
when
right?
it's rough, it's rough.
Mhm.
You know, it's kind of that simple. Yeah, there's no way it's as calm as what the interior of your new marina is. I mean, there's like no way. And so, but we still, it was something that we had and we could make our own decision. And now that's been taken away from us.
And has the establishment suffered any claims from the damages of the refraction or anything? Any reportable damage to
No,
any
I
marine
don't know
boats?
of anybody's boat who has, because I
Okay.
do know
That's all
myself,
I
like I
needed.
say, who's pulling. I do know, like I say, the dock itself, a couple of the pins got sheared off and there was some damage on the floats underneath and things like that. But I don't know of anybody reporting to us as far as
Okay.
boats being damaged. That no, sir.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Just wanted to.
Yeah.
Any other questions of this gentleman? No, I know you want to speak. Okay. Okay, thank you very much for your
Thank you for your time. I
comments. Thank you.
appreciate the consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Eric Gardner. I'm the outgoing House Committee Chairman for the last 2 years of the Bristol Elks. So I've been there pretty much almost every day for the last 2 years, especially last summer, and dozens of occasions where boats were trying to pull up and had to pull away. That had never happened in the past. One of the fair justifications for 8 slips is it is a 1/4-mile walk from the town marina to the Elks, as opposed to walking directly into the club. Many of our members are 70 years old or older. We have hundreds of members that have boats that utilize that dock, and we feel this is a valuable asset that's been diminished and because of this marina. And our bigger concern is that there was no impact study done for any abutters to this marina, and that it wasn't asked for is not a good excuse as far as we're concerned. This is a marina design that, as far as I know, in Upper Narragansett Bay, we've never seen before. So as it went in, there were many members who had told us this is going to be an issue. I didn't quite understand what they meant by that because it's a marina, but with no pilings and concrete breakwaters under the docks with 16,000-pound moorings. Those waves have to go somewhere, and they're coming right back and damaging our docks, diminishing our ability to use our docks. And from what I've read about concrete breakwaters, they also create erosion because of the natural flow of the bottom. It needs to go somewhere. It doesn't go anywhere. It comes back, and it may damage the structure of our property too. But we're just starting to understand, what kind of impact this could have.
But you haven't, there's no engineering studies that you have pursued or gotten any?
We are looking into that right now.
Okay. Thank you.
Once we were told that there was no engineering impact study done by the town, then which we asked, we've been going to Harbor Commission meetings since December on this issue. The first letter was December, and they went back to their engineers to look at what kind of impact, and we really didn't get an answer other than none was asked for, none was created. And one other thing I want to just talk about the boating season. So our docks go in May, at the beginning of May, and they come out at the beginning of October. So it wouldn't be 365. But it is very busy. We have of the 2,000 members, many of them are retired. So they're there 7 days a week. We're closed on Mondays, so not on Mondays.
But they're there with their boats, not with their cars.
The majority are with their cars, but there are, like I say, hundreds of members that are boaters that bring their boats to the Elks.
Okay, well, thank you for your testimony. Anybody have any other questions?
What's the motion at this point? Do us
It
to
was
refer
refer to the harbor master.
to the harbor
and the
master,
commission for
harbor commission,
recommendation.
and the
Attorney.
administrator and
Attorney.
The attorney
attorney.
for any sort of liability agreement issues, and we would continue it to the May 10th meeting. Specifically. If you guys are amenable to it. That motion.
No, I think it was second. I think I second.
You did, that's right. Yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure that May 10th is a good date. I mean, there'll be a harbor commission meeting between now and May 10th, is that right? Okay. All righty. Hi, how are you today?
Good. My name's Owen O'Rourke. I'm also an Elks member, retired with the boat. But why wasn't there an impact study done for this? In our own harbor management plan, it says we're going to do impact studies for all occasions. Why should the Elks have to pay for an impact study that they shouldn't, they didn't have a study that we shouldn't have to pay for one. The town in their own policy says they're going to do an impact study. It wasn't done. Why?
I don't know the answer. Steve, do you know the answer or Greg?
Well, in short, I would like to say we
It's
went.
policy in the harbor management plan. The policy says they're going to do an impact study. When we asked, the answer we got because it wasn't asked for. Well, who didn't ask for it?
So
We could have avoided this whole thing. It never should have came to this point.
Right, so let me see what the administrator has to say.
I don't know anything about about that provision there. I'll have to read it, but I know we went through lengthy permitting through CRMC with approval, EM with approval, Army Corps of Engineers with approval. I think it was about 4 years worth of approval. So anything that was required to get the sign off for CRMC, we did. I don't know.
This is the town's harbor management plan. It's our own town policy. It says right in the harbor management plan that we're gonna do this, and we didn't do it.
Okay, I'll take a look at it.
I think that is something like, if you don't mind, that we would like to have the answer to
Yeah,
ourselves in
yeah.
the report and recommendation that we get back, because I don't think none of us really have the answer here.
And I'm happy to add that question into my motion if
And
you
in the
feel.
future, if someone's gonna be putting in the dock or something like this, if it's done up front, it could be avoided. I know there's a lot going on over at the college and stuff, but it's something we might wanna make sure we ask for. So we're not, impacting any of the neighbors.
No, it's a very good point that you
So,
raised. I mean, and, as we begin to know that, the answer to that, I don't know.
Well, to the administrator's point, though, I mean, we went through CRMC, Army Corps of Engineers, and DEM. So, I mean, at some point in time, they should have also thought of it. How would this impact the area? You would think they would have brought that up.
Right. And did the Elks attend those kind of meetings to make sure there was not going to be an impact on with them? Like, did you gentlemen go and to all those approval meetings or for those 4
They
years?
started getting involved. They started getting more involved, I believe, after it happened. Because nobody at the Elks knew what the impact of a dock was gonna be. There's always been a dock there and there was never a problem. But the dock moved way over closer, right past to the Robin Rug.
Mhm.
And I assumed that everybody thought it was gonna be the same. But with these new, I call them baffles, they go 8 feet under the dock. So all that energy that comes off it bounces and goes right over at the docks at the Elks.
So no one knew what you're saying is no one knew the impact of that technology.
Nobody from the Elks is knowledgeable in that area until it actually happened. But I guess what I'm saying is, the town should have looked at what is it gonna impact our neighbors? They should have looked at that.
If I may address too, I got copies of the core permit and the CRMC permit here. And I agree, they did review all the documentation provided, but it says specifically in here, though, that the permit does not authorize any injury to property or rights of others. And then it continues to say that, the permits can be reviewed if not only if information that was provided to them was false, but if pertinent information was not submitted. And I'm just hearing this for the first time personally about if that was the mission statement of the Harbor Commission, that they should have done this and that. Well, that's something then, if it should have been done, that the Corps and the state should have had in front of them to review prior to issuing these permits. So it's like, both signed permits here, and if you read them, that's exactly what they say.
Well, I think that with the recommendation of sending it to the Harbor Commission, the Harbor Master, but also to the solicitor and to the administrator to take a look at all of that, because if there's, all of that needs to be reviewed in any of that documentation. I don't know if they all have all that stuff or not, but if not, you may want to send it to our administrator.
Well, they should. I mean, as this gentleman mentioned, it's kind of part of the mission or the bylaws of what the Harbor Commission is supposed to be doing for all property owners within the harbor. And the Corps, obviously, and the state isn't familiar as far as the people may be doing the study. So that's why they cover themselves in their actual permits to say, hey, if you didn't provide me, or what you did provide me, we find out is false or incomplete, then we have an opportunity to go back and review the permit. And the Department of the Armies is a little bit different. I mean, to the point where they say, if we have to, we ourselves can go back in there. And if the town's not willing to do repairs and do it ourselves and back charge the town or something like that. Now, I'm just reading, something that I don't like to read, because quite honestly, like I say, I just see the Elks as part of this community and just looking for something on a temporary basis, to be fair, to let us.
And I think your points are definitely valid and made. And as part of my colleagues in the motion, we definitely want to we're asking you for a chance to be able to do our due diligence and look into that. And then that's why we're continuing to the next meeting, just to kind of button it all up. But I definitely appreciate we're going to look into those questions.
Thank you for your time. I
No,
apologize.
no.
if
Oh, that's
I've
okay.
been
No,
a little-
have
I've been
you-
a little winded. I apologize. But
No,
boating
it's okay.
season is coming close and I'm getting ready.
You're getting excited. I don't blame you. I don't blame
Well,
you.
I just want to say, have you written up, so you've got this request to us and just saying this is the action that's happened, but the details that you just expressed to us, has that been written up and submitted to either the Harbor Master or to our administrator, our legal counsel?
We haven't sent any to legal counsel, or I mean, I'm assuming your harbor commission and your harbor master, actually your harbor master has signed this permit here. So I know he's well aware of this. Back in 21, his signature is on this. So it's something that, once again, we weren't privy to a lot. We just assumed the knowledgeable people were taking care of it. As kind of as if you were the neighbor downstream from me developing a home and I wasn't flooded. You just assume this guy doing what's right and what's fair.
Mhm.
And that's what we're asking.
May I just, well, and we're certainly going to keep an open mind. This was helpful. And we'll look at the harbor management plan, but we did have a consulting engineer that kind of guided us through this. And if we were required to do a impact study, we would have done it had we known about it, and we may just have missed it. But we'll look at it. This is news to me tonight, so thank you. And I also have to say, we had numerous public hearings and none of the abutters objected to my recollection. I know we even went to historic about the pylons and so forth. Like, we had numerous, and this never occurred to us that this could have been an issue. And I, in all fairness, it may be a legitimate issue, but I just don't know. But I just got this letter April 4th, and I wanted to get it in front of the council, and we'll keep an open mind. And if we did something wrong, we'll do our best to correct it and be reasonable about it. I'm sure that's how the council will act, but we didn't, I just want to make it clear. If it does in fact say that we're supposed to do an impact study, I'm a little surprised we didn't do one. But that's news to me. I'd like to review that before I comment any further.
Okay, great.
It's actually under policy in the harbor. I'm actually on the Harbor Advisory Board. And we all update that. And if you look under policy, it actually says it in there. So you,
As a member, you were aware of it.
as well, after reading it, so, but I'm not Harbor Commissioner, I'm just on the advisory board.
I just hope we can work together and resolve.
Oh, yes, yeah, I'm sure we will. I know that they were talking about a breakwater that looked like it would resolve everything, but once again, if the Corps of Engineers has to get involved, it might take a long time to do something with that.
Okay, well, hopefully we'll all have better answers at the May meeting. And thank you all for bringing this to our attention, and we've got a good group of people to work on it.
Thank you.
So hopefully they'll have all the information, and feel free to, set up a time to meet with the administrator if necessary
Thank you.
as well.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, so there's a motion and a second. So, and all in favor of the motion to get recommendation from the Harbor Commission, the Harbor Master, involve the solicitor and the town administrator, make sure that about legal issues and liability, et cetera. Motion is second. That was basically it, right?
And just, we continue to the next May 10th meeting.
May 10th meeting.
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is J1, and this is the RFP 1006. And this is the water pollution control facility, and this is for the outfall inspections. We did have the bid opening today at noon. We received 2 bids for bid 1006. The first one was from UROV LLC in the amount of $12,845. And the second one was from Underwater Solutions, Inc., and that was in the amount of $14,700.
I make a motion to refer it to the town administrator to act in the best interest of the town.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Nope. Okay.
The next item on the agenda is J2, and this is RFP 1007, and this is for the compost marketing program. We did have the bid opening today at noon. We did receive 1 bid for bid 1007 from We Care Denali LLC, and that was done by revenue share cost, which was 25%, and cost per load for unsold compost was $600 a load, 500 cubic yard minimum.
Make a motion to refer to the town administrator to act in the best interest of the town.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
The next item on the agenda is K1, and this is Juan Mariscal, and this is the acting chairman from the Bristol County Water Authority, and this is the monthly report from March 2023.
Motion to receive and file.
Second.
Any comments? No, all in favor?
Aye.
And the next item.
Okay,
on
so I
the
think now,
agenda-
Mike, are we on our, you get us back into our executive session?
That's correct. The motion would be to convene into executive session pursuant to Rhode Island General Laws 4246(5)(a)(5), sale of real property formerly known as the Oliver School at 151 State Street.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No? Okay, ready to go. Thank you all.